What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2 and another hero spotlight. I've been promising this one for a couple of weeks now, and I finally got it close enough where I wanted to go ahead and throw it together, and that is the Aimbot Mystic. Oh yeah, the Aimbot Mystic is back. She is not as powerful as she used to be, there's no doubt about it. However, still extremely viable and just an amazing, if not one of the best in the game, as far as crowd control from a hero itself. She's beast mode, however, there is a few things that she is not. Now, there's a few heroes in the game, this being one of them, that you have to know what you're getting into. This particular build is completely just a lazy build. If you want to be an aimbot, and if you want to just sit there and just spam or hold down one button, this is the build for you. Now, you do get to take full advantage of the Mystic's crowd control in this build, and that really is the beast mode portion of it, as you can completely crowd control a lane, and you can do a very nice damage in the process. Now, as I said, there's one thing she is not. One thing that she is not is a burst damage hero. She's not putting out big burst single target damage numbers. She's not going to burn any bosses down super quick. And you have to realize that you're just not going to get those kind of results out of the Mystic. Now, the Mystic can be extremely viable as hero damage or as ability power. This, of course, being the aimbot build, is going to be focused 100% on hero damage and crowd control. Now, the aimbot portion of this, of course, is the Shadowflame Knife. The Shadowflame Knife can be acquired from the Altar of Athame incursion, or then buying from the Wayfarer in town. As you see here, Shadowflame Knife secondary attacks fire a Shadowflame Knife, dealing 67% hero damage as magic damage. Daggers bounce up to 8 times. Now, as I mentioned, this is not near as strong, even at 10 out of 10, as it used to be back in the day. However, still quite beast mode. These daggers are always going to be 2 shots per second. They're always going to be a single projectile. And if periodically you do like to run in for some melee shots, you're going to want to find a heavy version of this dagger. However, this particular build is 100% based off of that Shadowflame Knife special locked mod for this one, and it really does make a difference, the quality of it. So if you get a poor quality Shadowflame Knife mod, by all means, that is a mod that you're going to want to re-roll, as the damage output just bouncing around the map. Although it looks like it's not a significant difference, remember, it's just hitting tons and tons and tons of mobs. Now, taking a look just at the basics of the Mystic, we see we've got 3 and then a 4th buff directly under the Mystic's nameplate. There's always quite a bit of mystery with these buffs, and let me clarify exactly what it is. That very first buff is going to be a life leech, meaning it's going to be a life steal. Any damage that you do, it's going to return a little bit of that back in hero health. It's not significant, however, it is a nice heal, as anything is better than nothing, and particularly stacked with the life leech from Ancient Power, can be quite powerful in keeping the Mystic alive. Now, that second one is a cooldown reduction. Now, this doesn't mean it's a cooldown reduction where it's a straight up, I cast my Call of Madness, it's got a, by default, 12-second cooldown. It's not going to straight up reduce that. However, it's one step up from that. It's actually reducing the cooldown of your abilities for each time you hit. Now, this particular build, there's going to be hits just bouncing all over the map, and it's going to reduce that cooldown very quickly, as you see how fast it ticks down. And really, with the Call to Madness, if you time it right, you can actually have 3 of them up at the same time. There's 2 of them going there. Of course, I didn't hit it quite soon enough, but you can just spam the Call of Madness around the map, and you can get up to 3 of them at a time, And you can actually keep 2 at a time, as you see here, for a pretty nice duration. Now, Call the Madness is the main CC machine on the Mystic. You're going to be wanting to use that quite frequently. Not only is it going to crowd control the mobs and start a big old mob fight, it's also going to do increased damage. So that means anytime you hit the mobs after this, any mobs under the effect of Call of Madness are going to be taking some increased damage. And third, but definitely not least, and in my opinion, one of the biggest buffs out of the Mystic buffs, the third one over is a stat increase. Now this is a raw 15% stat increase that affects everything. Hero damage, ability power, hero health, defense power, absolutely everything. You can see this quite easily. Say if I threw a snake down right here and look, it's doing 802,000 attack damage per hit. If I switch over to a monk and take a look, then it is going to be doing only 701,000 per hit. I switch back to the Mystic and it's 802,000. This is a raw stat increase and it only applies when the Mystic's active. So if you like to build with the Mystic and then swap to another hero, you're not still going to get that buff of those defense power stats. Now, that being said, anytime the Mystic is active, you're going to get the buff. Now, another thing as far as actively playing the Mystic, particularly if you are a fan of snakes. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and get rid of Split Vipers for the moment, just so you can see in this particular test much better exactly what's going on. Say you had a bunch of snakes in the lane. Well, the inherent problem with snakes is multiple snakes will not hit the same target. Meaning, you know, no matter how many snakes you put down, they're all going to pick their own target. Now it appears here they're channeling through the first one, but it's only actually getting hit by one. Now Dark Torment, your third ability, which is an ability power ability, has a unique benefit, and you can use that even in the hero damage sense. And that is, it's going to make anything under the effect of Dark Torment, all snakes in that area are all going to target that particular mob. So if we Dark Torment this very front target dummy, we're going to see all the snakes then channel directly into that one mob. This can be very effective for burning bosses, particularly if you like to build with the Mystic. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the bread and butter of the build. As I mentioned before, this build is all about being lazy. So it's about just spamming your alternate fire. So your right click or secondary fire, it's actually an alternate fire, just spamming that. Now it does have an aimbot ability with the Shadowflame knife, as it is always going to hit a target if there is one in range. Meaning if I'm standing here and I'm shooting at the Tavern Keeper, it is still going to bounce back and find all of the targets. Now, this ends up being just a massive amount of lane coverage, as it's just going to hit everything in the area. If we take a look around all the dummies, everything that has been ignited by burning strikes and is poisoned, it hit all of those enemies just from targeting the Tavern Keeper over here. So that really is the power of it. It's perfect if you don't want to aim, and that is why I call it the Aimbot Mystic. As just spamming generally down a lane is going to hit everything in the area. Now, this does fire at 2 shots per second. However, it also has it's going to fire every time you press the key. So if you want to spam click, you're going to get a whole lot more projectiles out there than just the 2 per second. So like the Lava Mancer in that example, it is going to just send projectiles flying absolutely everywhere. Another unique benefit of this projectile is it is a projectile, and if you target a geode directly, it is going to bounce off the geode. However, say this first enemy is a geode and I target over here, the shot is being redirected, and redirected shots will penetrate geodes. In addition to that, shots will penetrate all walls, which also means spawns And these daggers can actually get back in the spawn and really wreck it up without enemies even coming out. There's no doubt about that either. Now let's take a look at the power of the build. Everything in this is based off of hero damage for the extent of it. Now, as I mentioned, this is not doing a massive amount of damage. So if we just hold it, I'm not going to spam the right click, we're going to see numbers up to as high as probably about 4 million. Looks like there was a 4.3, 4.4 there. The thing is, though, is that damage is bouncing all over the place. So it's doing 1 million DPS here, it's doing 2 million DPS there, it's doing 4 million here, it's doing 3 million there, 2 million here. It's just doing millions of damage on many mobs throughout the entire area. Now that is also its downside. Say I wanted to shoot at that dummy right there. Uh-oh. The shots are redirected to another target. So if you're trying to burn down a specific mob at range, you're just not going to hit it because they're going to go where they want to go, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, with that extent, using a heavy dagger, you are going to get some big shots on the Mystic with melee. So if you want to run in and just melee it up, you can still do really nice damage just from running in with your melee abilities. Actually, it's more as far as single target goes. Now, there's a few more aspects to this build. As you've seen everywhere, it's lighting stuff on fire, it's poisoning things all over the place, so we are stacking poison and fire. Now, we're doing that with a few different ways. First off, we are using the Burning Strike Shard. Burning Strikes is a 20% chance on hit to burn target for 180% of your hero damage stat as magical fire damage each second for 5 seconds. In addition to that, we are also using Serpent's Kiss, which is going to afflict enemies with poison that get hit by our secondary attacks. So we're poisoning enemies and burning enemies, and that does stack up the damage quite nicely. Now, there's something about the Serpent's Kiss poison. It's really sketchy. Of course, obviously, we're going to go with a Petrify build here. Sometimes it will petrify when you want it to. Sometimes it won't petrify when you want it to. And it is quite sketchy as to when it actually decides to work and when it doesn't. Now, with the amount of petrifies just bouncing around the map, or the amount of poison bouncing around the map, you can expect your diminishing returns to stack up really quick. Now let's run through every single piece of gear and the shards. Now, of course, we know we're getting poison from our secondary, or from our Serpent's Kiss shard on our secondary fire. Now, this poison, of course, is going to combo with earth damage, so I am going to use an earth damage pet. Doesn't matter what pet you use, as long as up top it says earth damage. If up top it says earth damage, then you're automatically going to be able to roll the Sandstorm ability. Increases speed by 50% and attacks deal 115% bonus earth damage for 7 seconds. This is on command. So if you're in a pinch, you need the CC stuff, and you want to shut it down with a Petrify, you can just pop your pet ability and it's going to add earth damage to all of your attacks. Now, as I mentioned, the poison aspect of this is really sketchy, so sometimes this works exactly the way you want it to. Other times it doesn't quite work the way you want it to. Sometimes it works and you didn't even hit the button. So it's definitely a little bit buggy altogether. Now, we want to stack hero damage. However, there's just such few quality hero damage mods that are going to work on the Mystic. Now, of course, we're going with a heavy weapon. We can use either heavy or single chip and still get the results. As you see, I stacked single on all of mine. The reason being is I didn't have a heavy weapon at first when I started putting together the set. So the mods of choice for me are power chip, healthy power chip, and single chip, and you want this on every piece of gear. As you see, I'm missing one here with that robust chip. However, power, healthy, and single on all of your pieces. Of course, you can't use single and heavy on the same piece, or we would take heavy over power chip all day long if that was an option. On the weapon, where the Shadowflame Knife mod, of course, is locked. That one, the build is based around and you have no choice. I'm also going with Frostfire Remnants. Frostfire Remnants is just so good, especially with the spawn camping ability of the Shadowflame bouncing back inside of spawns. If it gets the Frostfire proccing back inside the spawn on a really heavy lane, like a captain lane, or, you know, just any lane with a lot of mobs, the mobs are just not going to make it out of spawn. It's just not going to happen, as Frostfire is going to keep them parked back there. Now, as a last mod, I use Focus Power Chip. This one is completely optional. It gives you a little bit additional weapon damage. However, it's just not a significant amount. Now, once again, it is just a small amount that's bouncing around the map, so that number does all add up. However, you can realistically use any mod in the third slot. Focus Power is just one of my favorites and what I like to go with. Now, taking a look at the shards, we've got Worm Scarf, reduces damage taken by 19% when gilded, and then Inspiration. Now, even with an ungilded Inspiration, that's going to allow you the ability to get 100% uptime on your Call to Madness. So just with a regular Inspiration, you're going to have 100% uptime exactly on the Call of Madness. We have a slight overlap here because we've got the Gilded Inspiration. Now remember, this isn't including the cooldown reduction that you're getting just innately for your appeasement with being a Mystic. However, with just any Inspiration Shard, you're going to be able to keep 100% uptime on Call to Madness. So, Inspiration is definitely one I would strongly suggest. And then we're going with Serpent's Appeasement. This build is all about staying at 100% appeasement. Of course, this shard is just going to help us out there. It's not a required shard. It's pretty easy to stay at 100 appeasement anyway. However, this one's going to close the deal and make sure you're just there all the time. Moving on to the gloves, we got Critical Strike, kind of the no-brainer in any DPS hero. Serpent's Kiss, which is a Chaos 7 item, and is a shard that you're really going to want once you get to this point. And then Debilitating Madness. Chaos 5, Call to Madness increases the target's damage taken by 52%. This is another one of those wonky ones. Sometimes it appears like it's not working. Sometimes it appears that it is working. It's hard to really say. I'm going with it because I have seen it work and know that it does at least work intermittently. Now, on the glove section, a lot of people are going to ask, well, why not Beacon of the Storm? And there's one big reason for that. Beacon of the Storm does not proc off of the secondary attack. So, as we see, I'm spraying. There are no beacons popping out anywhere. Now, Beacon does proc off of the melee attack, so you could use it if you wanted to go in and melee a lot. When you melee swing, you're going to see that Beacon of the Storm, little purple lightning bolt, shoot out there, as it does work on the melee attack, but not on the secondary attack. Since it doesn't work on the secondary attack, I'm all about the laziness of the Aimbot Mystic, so for me, it is a no-go. If you're going to get in there and use that melee attack quite often, Beacon of the Storm would be a good choice for you. Next, we're going with Bulwark in the chest, Power Gambit, and Tempered Anger. Tempered Anger is an optional Chaos 8 shard that's kind of really quality of life. It makes it so that if your appeasement does go to 0, you don't take any damage. And it makes your appeasement go down a little bit slower. However, this build's all about keeping full appeasement anyway, so this is more just a little bit of a quality of life thing to help you stay full, not necessarily run out. And then in the boots, use anything. I've got Speed Chip. Use whatever you want in the boots. Into the weapon, we got Madness Embrace. Increases Call to Madness duration by 7.5 seconds. Enough said. This is the real reason why you're able to keep multiples up with 100% uptime. Madness Embrace from Chaos 5 is a shard you're going to want to keep. Burning Strikes, 20% chance on hit to burn target for 180% of your hero damage stat. This particular shard is just the quality of life extraordinaire when dealing with the Drakenlord now. In just about any DPS build that I would suggest, I would tell anyone to use Burning Strikes, just because it makes life so much easier in the Dragon Lord department. And then for a third, I'm using Thunderstruck. However, a better in slot would probably be Drenching Strikes. As you see, I don't have another Drench. I've got them all on heroes, so I'm using Thunderstruck in lieu of Drenching Strikes. That's also given me a little bit of storm damage in the mix. It's only once every 3 seconds. However, it's a little bit of storm damage and some drench, so it can provide an electrocute combo in the mix as well. Now, in this particular build, as I mentioned, it's 100% CC focused, and we've got 3 forms of CC. Starting from the worst would be that Thunderstruck. It's not going to be significant, however, it is apparent. Then moving up to the Petrify combo with Poison and Earth damage. And then last but not least, the Call to Madness. So these 3 in combination will, without a doubt, put a roadblock on any lane and just make it so you just completely shut it down and destroy everything. And I mean, once again, you get a game ogre lane. Who doesn't want to see ogre fights? Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Get that Call to Madness going up on those ogre lanes. As far as the Ascension goes, it's standard issue, same old, same old. First thing you do in the utility category is hero crit chance and hero crit damage. Now this one is a little questionable here, but you don't want to put any points in maximum appeasement. Now here's why. By having maximum appeasement, it doesn't make your appeasement go down from 100% any slower. However, having a higher maximum appeasement does make it tougher to get up to that 100%. So I personally don't put any points into max appeasement. And then of course, movement speed, gots to have it. Now taking a look in the offense category, we're going to do this one a little bit different than we would in most cases. Now first off, you're going to want to put 20 points into Call to Madness duration. I mean, what more can you say? It's 2 more seconds on Call to Madness. Good stuff. Now here, as you see, we're a hero damage build. However, I want full hero health first. And why is that, do you ask? Well, I wanted to use Serpent Coils. I wanted to get full Ascension into Serpent Coil damage. And I weighted hero health higher than hero damage. There's a couple of reasons I did that. First off, hero health scales very, very nicely on the Mystic. As you see, 1.4 million health. She is a healthy girl, no doubt about it. But in addition to that, your Serpent's Kiss poison damage is directly scaling off your hero health. So the higher your hero health stat, the more of the poison damage you're going to get. So I went into hero health just to keep 100% survivability, plus doing a little bit more poison damage all the way around. After you get hero health maxed, of course, then you want to put everything else directly into hero damage. Now this Mystic build, although it is made for the lazy individual like myself, it can be quite powerful and is really fun to play, especially if you like zooming around the map. Nobody gets around quite like the Mystic, except maybe the Lavamancer. She is super quick, super healthy, and can CC them all, while doing a little bit of damage to just every single mob out there. So spray it around and get it done on your Aimbot Mystic. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to click that like button, please subscribe to the channel, and I will be back soon with more Dungeon Defenders 2. I'll see you next time.